Hey everybody, I'm here with Toshi again. It's nice to return. We're doing some interviews together. I'm interviewing a few of the green check mark facilitators, trainers. And Toshi, I think you've seen maybe one interview with him. Hey Toshi, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
It's always an interesting conversation with Toshi, and we've been playing around with some topics, and we may have one or two here for you. As you know, with KI, these are nuanced topics, to my audience, and so we try to articulate it as best we can. Just feeling it how I want to start this topic. We're talking generally about how we relate to emotions. You could say on the path or how we learn to relate to emotions. And you were saying before the interview that most of us, we only know our emotions through our stories at first. But then as we do this, this work, something else happens. So I'm gonna let you explain how you would explain that. But can you take us back? So here's the question. Can you take us back to Toshi, like before he got to the non-dual message? Like, how did you relate to your emotions? And then after you got to some of the pointing to awareness, did you start to relate to your emotions differently? And then when you got to KI, what changed? Can you give us like a rundown of Toshi's life in that way?
Yeah, sure. But I must say, all this comes in hindsight. It's crazy. After I've done the work, I'm more conscious of my programs because I was just pretty unconscious. So, I didn't know well, I knew what emotions were, but I never really looked at it or anything like that. So it's kind of, a lot of the insights come from the work that I've done. But before, 5 years ago, definitely, I didn't know emotions without identification, without stories, without this is what you did to me, therefore I'm sad, therefore I'm angry, or this is what's happening in the world, and I feel this. It's like it has to. I could never separate it. It was just the same thing. It's just I could have called it feeling, or like this is what happened to me, right? So it's all just mangled up and it's all unconscious. So I'm just walking around trying to feel it or not to feel it or whatever it is, really. And I really got to see this because after the discovery of non-duality and some of my awakening experiences like that, I could see some of the thoughts and story come up in myself when I sit with myself, whatever that means right now. I won't go into that too much, but we all, like a non-dual message, or we almost been taught to neti, like disregard. This is not me. This is not who I am. Anything that comes up, the stories or the identities, all that. If I look at it, all those things, the stories and the identity have emotions attached to it. But I was chucking away everything out the window. Yes, it's I guess it's a question of, do you want to chuck anything out the way? Is a question too. But because I was told that, you're not your stories, they're just thoughts, there's no one really here, it just apparently happening, all that stuff, right? And yes, it's true to a point, and that's my experience too. But from that point, it's so easy for us who doesn't want to feel something. So I sat there in hindsight because I didn't want to feel anger. That's why I sat there. And they felt good because I managed to push down my anger. Every time something comes up, like, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. But there might have been an anger or sadness that was there. But I was just throwing everything out with the bathwater or whatever it is, just because I'm not me. So I couldn't even, let alone be with emotions or anything like that. So that's why it's so hard to be with or to find out what emotions are.
Mm.
And I'll be the last one, maybe I said in the different videos, but I'll be the last one to know about what anger is because I managed to repress it. And all I know is the story of it, really. If I really look now, what is anger? It's just, I could put lots of different words there, but it's not what I thought. It was always about something that arises when I've been, it's all to do with stories, and it doesn't have to be like that. So, and it's very, very different when you can see it that way. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like a rich topic. I could just already see, because the next question I want to ask is, and I actually asked you this before our video. I said, so if people hear this, then what you're saying is we don't need to identify with the stories. We can just come down and feel everything then and just be free. Just come down and feel and allow everything. What's your response?
Yeah. So the question is, can we really, how could I, when I know there has to be a story to the emotions, and if I really break it down to look into that, there was a utility, there's a benefit of me believing in stories with the emotions itself. So yes, I'm gonna just allow everything to, you might feel something, but it's not I'm just still unconscious. It's I'm sure everyone can try for themselves. Can you just feel a sadness or anger,
Right.
and just not think about what is this sadness about? Because there has to be a story or identification there, because that's how we kind of make it what it is. But it doesn't have to be like that after repression, which sounds crazy, but it's not easy. If I could only do that, we don't really need to do the repression work, really, because
Right.
yeah. So yeah.
Well, the other thing you said before the interview, which I love too, is you said, how do we do that? Because we started talking about how a lot of the emotions are repressed or suppressed. So even if you come down and feel, what are you feeling? You're feeling frozen emotion at this point, because we repress it so long, it doesn't feel, it's not just an emotion that we can come down and feel. So that breaks down there too. And that if we come down and feel everything, we have a lot of contraction and frozen emotion. And then that has its own stories on. A lot of our stories are actually connected to the trauma and the contraction. So how I would also say that is, we have to contend with that piece. It's not just that we don't know what it's like to feel emotions directly. It's that we've repressed a lot of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's one thing I wanted to say before I ask the question. If I were to ask somebody, what is anger? And they said, oh yeah, well, in 7th grade, my dad said this. I'll say, no. What is anger? Well, when people no, I'm angry. That's anger. I'm angry. Feeling, expressing, that's what anger is. The stories are secondary. I think the stories come because we don't open to that emotion. Is that what you're saying? That because we can't open to that, the stories come. What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a yeah. Because I'm angry is it, but I think there's a safety, no? I'm angry about something, or I'm angry about you, and that to connect to the story and to feel it as it is. I think it was really scary for me, because I don't know, because my anger was repressed. All I saw was an explosion of it, and I have to have a direction or something. It's you who did this. It has to be. It can't just be this thing that's flowing and randomly happening. And then I think there's a fear of just allowing that to be what it is.
Yeah.
Just as it is, or something like that. Yeah.
So if you were going back to your path like 5 years ago, before you got to KI, how did you relate then to anger? What was your actual practice, or when you were sitting? What did it actually look like compared to what it might look like today?
Well, but I didn't have a practice. I was avoiding. I didn't even know I was avoiding anger. I was just this nice guy called Toshi, who just doesn't get angry. It wasn't. I just I'm this. I had a genuine question. Why don't I get angry? If someone really did something horrible to me, I would just get upset and start crying or something. I just didn't know why there was none of that was coming up. I just felt more upset. And I felt embarrassed the fact that, my tears are well up, because I get so angry or whatever when I should be angry, but I didn't know how to, because my repression was so strong. I was so blind to that energy. I just get really welled up when it's a really confrontational kind of situation. But if it's to do with a relationship in my wife or my previous girlfriend, whatever, I just be really grumpy and just and it's about, you lost the temper and I didn't, I kept myself, cool and just kept nice and being nice. And then I thought it was all about how to be nice at all costs to get love, because I really needed to be loved. That's all it was. And there's no way I could allow this anger, because it's dangerous. I won't get love. It's not safe. And that's what it was for me. And so it's really easy to I was just so blind, and I thought that's what Toshi was. It felt like a personality. That's just who I am. I'm just no angry person. It's like, what are you talking about? I don't even know why you're so angry. That kind of, it's like, why do you have to be so angry? And it's okay, just no conflicts, no boundaries. Just it's okay, it's okay. It's just that kind of really horrible.
People like why are they angry with not knowing that you were angry? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. It's and what I'm finding, I just want to add how violent and aggressive that is, which I never knew. Maybe we could go into this kind of conversation too, which I'm finding out from sadness repressor, who has to be angry to feel safe. Mm-hmm. But for us to say everything's all right, be nice, all that is a real aggressive violence to them, and which I never knew. And when I really saw that, I felt, oh my God, how many hurt, of course, by trying to be nice,
Yeah.
because for my own sake, if that makes sense,
We send that out and then bring it back later, since it's not the topic today. But if you're an anger repressor and you think you're only bringing peace, like there are people who are severely traumatized by anger repressor, parents and people. But we, as anger repressors, we just totally tune out of it because we think we're just bringing peace. But we're going to show you, if you come to KI, the amount of damage that comes, the violence that comes from repression. And that's what you want to see, because it's a healing. We want to show it to you that that's there. Okay, so but that's for another day, I think.
That's just too juicy.
Right? So I want to share this, is like, if I was try to explain to people how unskillful it kind of was before, like if something would happen before, being an anger repressor, it was the last place I would go. No. I wouldn't go there. That's the truth. I just wouldn't go there. Because I didn't know how to. That's the point. I didn't know how. But once I learned how, it simplified everything, because before the repression work, it was like, if there was a trigger, I would sit and have to look at a lot of different things because I didn't really know what I was doing, frankly. That's how I see it. But now it's like, I go straight to the anger if there's something there, and it clears it up. And there aren't any, for me, when I process that directly, there aren't a lot of stories or places to go at all. That's what I noticed about it. It's cleaner.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's when I really start to meet this, what we call clean anger. I was just like, it's just energy. It felt like, but with some attitude or someness that I can almost identify as anger. Otherwise, do I even know as anger? It just feels so clean and energetic, But what I want to just kind of bring to this is, so in my experience, because I had so much repressed anger, full tank of it, I was carrying around. So part of the work was to just allow that to come up, right?
Yeah.
Cleanly, without identifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to someone else, and work is not about being angry and to be able to express anger, but if you don't get to the program that represses the anger, the tank's going to be filled again, and you have to keep expressing it in different modalities, right? So it's not, so you come here and you do your repression work on anger or sadness. Yes, we do have to express that, repressed anger or dirty anger, whatever it is, there's an identification in that too. But as well as that, we need to get to the program that keep repressing the anger, so that's not going to go away by just being angry, even however clean it is, and people really miss that too. So
that's a good point that I want to make sure everybody heard there, that you can't reverse repression just by getting angry. That's a good point. Yeah.
It's nice to empty the tank, because people just feel it was so good for me to just say fuck it, whatever, for ages. And it's like, oh, I'm doing well, but I'm just emptying out the tank. The program's still there. So next time I feel anger, I'm still pushing it down, and it just tanks keep filling up. So we need to, do you see what I mean?
That's such a good point, because my tank stopped filling up when I started going to anger during the triggers. Immediately it stopped filling it up that way. By not going to anger directly, just like you say, it just kept filling it up. That's a really good way of saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we can just allow it when it arises. So it's clean so we don't have to identify with it anymore, because we don't have to repress it. That means we don't have, it's just like laughing or something, like, it just comes out in a clean way. But if I have to repress it in any way, it's like, oh no, should I release it or should I? And then it's identified, and then it's a mess.
That's where I think the stories and the narratives come from, is like, I can't open to it, so I'm forced into this consciousness that it just has all this stuff there. That's how I saw it. Yeah. Okay, so I want to try to switch gears on this next one. We'll see. This is definitely a different topic that's probably related, which is, let me introduce it this way. So if anybody's a fan of Ken Wilber's work, you read about his phases or stages of development, that we continue to develop consciousness that develops beyond the early years of development. And that one of the latest developments in consciousness is something called the green stage. And the way I like to think of it is, it started as Ken said, it started in the 60s and 70s when we had the sexual revolution, civil rights, gay rights, women's rights. And we were learning something about humanity at that time. We were learning that there's a hell of a lot of inequality due to the traumatizing of minorities and all this. So we started to wake up as a consciousness into this stage of development. But because it's run on pain and unresolved trauma and repression, you can get stuck there. Because in order to get through that, you have to heal the trauma and repression, or you're going to get stuck at that stage, because that stage is responding to what's going on in the world from its pain and its repression. So it can't move beyond that. In other words, it can't be clearer than that. It can only be that traumatized voice in the world. And so therefore, they're also against authority. That's part of it. It's because when I was a kid, authority came at me. So I repressed anger and then identified, and now authority is an issue in green too. And that's the whole idea with green. If it's like, I hate to say this, but like the liberal agenda, okay? And I grew up as a liberal, so I'm just telling you, but the liberal agenda of like, these are great things, because I'm gay, these are great things. The equality is important now, all of these things, but I don't want that change in the world coming only from pain, because that's not what I want to be led by, is people in pain. So I want to go somewhere different. So we created this community of KI where we're helping people out. A lot of people are in the green consciousness. They were traumatized when they were kids. They are identified with some degree of victim or deficiency story. They have anger or hurt repression. But yet they might have like a very advanced worldview, which is actually one of the more advanced worldviews, which is equality is important, and all these things that we see with this. Okay, but it's coming from pain. So in our community, if we don't help people heal that, we never move beyond that stage of development. So what we're doing here in the leadership is we're trying to help people identify that this stage of consciousness is here. And there's a lot that we could talk about here, but how would you characterize the green consciousness that we see in KI? Like, what are some of the things that just point to it for you?
Yeah, so, but the need to believe that story, or the need to believe into that the equality and all that, the juicy topic is there because of the repression. That's what we have to point to first. That's, we can always connect the green energy back to the repression. That's what I feel like, and we all keep doing. But it's so hard to spot that, because we all have stories. We all have, because we're triggered most of the time. Like, the repression is active most of the time. So anything like, I don't know, for me, it was like a racial issue, me living in England as an Asian person, like, there was a lot of, equality is so, it feels so true to me, because, but if I really looked, it was my hurt, the little Toshi who's been hurt, who's angry that I can't repress, is grabbing it for his own safety, to believe that, so that he doesn't have to feel his anger. But to point to that, it's really difficult for some people, because that was my truth. If you said to me 5 years ago, Toshi, you need to look into that, I would have called you racist, right?
Oh,
That's what I'm talking about. So that's what, but we are learning to speak about it and point to the hurt and the trauma, because trauma wants to connect with other trauma. That's how I connect with people. Or, I really understand what happened to you, because this is what happened to me too. And we, that's how I connected with them. That's what our friendship was for, almost like to feel safe, But that's suffering, because it doesn't feel good. And the measurement of, So,
Oh, you got my juices flowing here. I'm sorry, but I was just thinking, like, when you said the other day that those who have landed in that trauma would tend to gravitate towards others. It's a trauma bond. But I think we've broken it down to what it really is here. It's like when we're traumatized and repressed, we're operating from a deep need for safety and to get love and approval. That's running everything. Yeah. So right there is when people get together in a community like this, where some people are still very much in the trauma and repression, where they're driven by the need to stay safe and get love. They're going to look for anybody else in that for safety and to get love. So there's a bond going on. And then when people bond together in that, they can't wake up, because now it's like strength in numbers. I'm suffering together with others, and I'm landing in some viewpoint that keeps me unable and unwilling to even look at it.
Definitely. And then it becomes an island. And then because about them against us kind of mentality in the island starts separate. And most not scary, but like crazy things that they don't know that themselves. I would know, I'll be the last one to know that's happening, because they're the one who's wrong. You're the one who's racist, right? Yeah. And from that hurt, from that pain, it just feels so true. And I'm looking for everyone to confirm that. that's true, right? And that's
Yeah.
the safety we're always looking for in anything. And
Yeah.
that's why it can create wars, like, yeah.
Well, I didn't want to give up my gay identity and the victim in it. I didn't. It felt like that's scary, actually, when that's who you think you are. And somebody says well, it starts to question that, the foundation on which I've built my whole life and my
Yeah.
bare rage and my politics and everything is behind that. And so you could see how there would be resistance to that. Like that's your whole world right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, but we're not trying to, but what we are trying to do is to make that conscious to say, so we're not trying to say equality is bad or you should be race or what, we're not doing any of that. If anything, it's opposite. If I clear that up, I bet I can spot racism much better than I could spot before, because I'm not using those terms to feel safe.
That's right.
I'm not looking for safety from any of my agendas or any of the things that I want to express.
Or love or
Because
approval.
I'm missing everything, if that makes sense, right? Yeah.
100. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're not looking for approval or love in the same way. Not just the bonding is not there, so you can see things clearly more. When you're not bonding in that green consciousness in a way. That's what I've seen.
So what I mean is I want to be clear about that actually. So what I mean that I get the choice back. At the moment, I'm sorry to keep using as an example, but at the moment, if I'm coming from my heart and from this green energy, I can only see you as racist, let's say,
Right.
Because that just feels true. I feel it in my body and it's suffering. It's all that stuff.
Can I also say abuser or whatever it is out here? Like you can only see me as something. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're abuser, yeah. But when that's fall away, when that program is seen through and falls away and you see it, not completely, but even some of it, and then I get a choice back to say, no, I can still see you as abuser or not. And if I still think you're an abuser, I'm gonna say you're an abuser. So it's not about getting rid of this movement to, it's about getting the choice back to say, okay, I don't have to believe you to be an abuser out of necessity and survival to feel safe. I can just sit here and just really see what's going on here. And if I think you're abuser still, you're still an abuser. You see, so it's not about anything that's happening out there.
Really. No, it's not about condoning anything. I think that people think that if I do my work, somehow I'm condoning people, but it's actually clarity around the whole thing. Because like this whole green thing, when I think of the venom and the pain, which is all justified, that's trying to change things. Like, I don't think that good change is going to come from that. I think that we're going to have to wake up. We have to wake up out of this is how real change is going to happen. Like, I don't think that this is the way. This is just a stage of consciousness that we're in right now, where there's a lot of pain trying to run the world, but we have to heal. That's the whole point, is what I'm trying to make. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it takes courage to go up against it sometimes, I think that's what I've been finding, I get inspired from you guys, I surprise myself because I see the reason why I see through it, and I also get identified because I see it in myself, the movement, and this is shadow stuff happening, and it's also painful, but to not express that is even more painful. So I've learned to really start to express it and go up against it, even though they're really hurt and they're gonna see me as a bad wolf, they're gonna see me as an abuser. I have to keep pointing it to it. And as some of us are leaders here, I think we have to be really clear about that, because otherwise we're just gonna trauma bond and say, oh, I'm sorry this happened to you, me too, and then we're just gonna, just go around in circle, and then the suffering continues, I guess. So
yeah, I'm gonna bring in something here that you brought up, and then we'll end it. But for me, shadow work is important here, right? So if I'm repressing something, I'm going to have shadows. And then if I do repression work, I end up owning those things. It's like whatever I thought was out there, I have that too. Whatever I have that too. I have that too. I'm all of it, And let's see where I wanted to go with that. But so as I do shadows, if I'm in that green consciousness and I've got a lot of repression, so I might have shadows like abuser, authority, know-it-all, or whatever, any big energy out there. But then when I do the work, suddenly I have access to those energies. And now those people are going to be targeting you. They're going to come at you, because this is how we stay. It's like misery loves company. Don't get free. If you get free, that's threatening. So we have to be aware of this, guys, because if you start to get free in any community or any family and people start pointing the finger at you, all you get to do is get freer from it. See, once you're processing with KI, those fingers pointed at you, The shadow boxing gives you an opportunity to go freer. But the people that are pointing the finger, that's who we're talking to here. We're talking to the people who are not yet processing this, who are landing right in that green thing and pointing at their shadows. That's your work to do, right? We all have to create this atmosphere where we really want to do this work, and there's a community in which we can actually, but if we, so for me, it's a call to tell everybody, do your shadow work, because the shadows that you see today will be the things that target you for tomorrow. Do you have anything to say about that in terms of just the green?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And like, it's like I remember when you said to me, Toshi, the more you become, clear, the more trigger you're going to be causing for other people who's pointing at you. And it's so true. And that is, but I can really see that now, and that's okay. It's because like something else we were talking about, but I'm not suffering and they are. And that sounds really wrong. But from this side, it's like, but it's not what it's about at the end of the day. And the one they're pointing and it feels right for them, but are you suffering? Because there must be, right? And that's the only thing that I really go by that when I'm, when I have to truly to be myself and be authentic and just express as myself. And it always a backlash because I'm triggering people who's still repressing, because I'm gonna say the opposite things that repression wants to hear. So I'm more used to that, and they don't want to hear that. It doesn't sell. The safety sells, not repression. Or freedom. I mean, so yeah. So that's what I'm really learning now to kind of to stay with myself and stuff like that as myself. And yeah, back to the how trauma wants to connect to each other, repression wants to connect to each other, they just want to learn together because they're looking for it in everybody, that energy of repression. When you start to really tune into that, because I've seen it in myself, I can see right through it almost,
Yeah.
However, sometimes I know he still, processing it because people are getting so much off of you, sort of thing as too. Like it's kind of it's a bit kind of how do you say a niche kind of subject, but yeah, it's there's all sorts of things like that you can pick up, because we have it in us too. But if you clean up, it's just part of life. It's just who we are. Seems like.
Totally. Yeah. Christine from the members area said, if we're suffering, our conditioning is successful. If we're suffering.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So if you think about it, like with the green consciousness and trauma, we are bonding together to stay safe and get love and approval. That's what we're doing,
Yeah.
So when our conditioning is successful and it feels good for a moment, like to bond with people, just want you to remember what Toshi just said there. Are you suffering? See, even if you're bonding with people, even if you can relate and identify with 400 people, still the question is, are you suffering?
Yeah.
So
that's how I check anyway. That's when I know I've landed, because it's landing so hard to spot. But the best guaranteed way to spot it is, are you suffering? Am I suffering? Am I getting anything out of this? That kind of energy. It's like, I think something's not right. And you can smell it, and that's, that's it.
Thank you, Toshi. And if people want to work with you, so Toshi's training, can you tell us a little bit about the programs you're offering now?
Yeah, so I'm just offering to train people in one-on-one, all dimensions, or third dimension on this stuff. And I'm doing facilitation as well. And that's what I'm doing. Yeah. So if you're interested in the radical stuff, if you wanna, I don't really slow down much because I just want to go straight to the point, if that makes sense. If if any of that resonates, come and see me.
If you want the radical, Toshi can do that. So if you're ready, go with Toshi. Okay, thank you, Toshi. I appreciate it every time. I'm going to bring you back here and we're going to talk more.
Thanks. Thanks, Scott. Bye.
Bye.